In many respects, Hyundai and Kia led the recent electric car revolution. You could argue that the Renault Zoe or the Nissan Leaf launched earlier, but those cars didn't arrive with a 250 to 300 mile range and an affordable price tag. So, where do you go from there? Well, here apparently, this is the new, from the ground up, Hyundai Ioniq 5, and it's like nothing we have ever seen before. And that's before we start unpicking things like range and charging speeds. In this video, we will tell you everything that you need to know, including whether this EV does enough to separate itself from its stablemates, as well as the competition. But before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the Carbuyer YouTube channel, hit the bell icon so you're notified when new videos go live, and while you're there, give this one a thumbs up. The Ioniq 5 is our first taste of Hyundai's next generation electric cars, sharing much of its hardware with the forthcoming Kia EV6. Range stands at between 238 and 298 miles, depending on which Ioniq 5 you go for, but its real party piece is how fast it can charge. We won't bore you with the specifics, but if you hook it up to the right ultra-rapid public charger, it will go from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes. That's 210 miles in 18 minutes. These chargers are still quite rare and expensive in the UK, but the infrastructure is improving all the time. But it's not just under the skin where this Ioniq puts its predecessors in the shade. This interior is just a masterpiece in classy minimalism. You see, the old Kona and the Ioniq models, and let's not get this Ioniq confused with the old Ioniq, they were just a sea of grey, dull plastics, but this is something quite special. And before you lot write off this white interior as being totally impractical for the family car buyers that this car is so squarely aimed at, yes, you can have it in black as well. But let's just ignore the colour palette for a little while and appreciate the tech fest that we have in front of us. These two screens, these 12.3-inch screens, they dominate the dashboard. The typeface will feel familiar to existing Hyundai owners, and the menus are still pretty logical, but everything within these two displays has been freshened up for the Ioniq 5. The central screen is responsive, and even entry-level models get sat-nav plus Apple and Android connectivity. The climate control is operated via this touch-sensitive panel down here, and while the system is better than the one you'll find in a Volkswagen ID.4, they're still not that intuitive to use. I know these flat, flush panels look great, but God, I'd take rotary dials and switches any day. Elsewhere, comfort, quality, and the general ambience of the cabin is right up there with the best cars in this class. You know, Hyundai have long had a bit of a habit of putting all of its resource into the exterior design and leaving the cabin as a bit of an afterthought, but that is no longer the case. You can find a full rundown of the Ioniq 5's SE Connect, Premium and Ultimate specs at carbuyer.co.uk. Just use the search function on the homepage or select Hyundai Ioniq 5 from the drop-down menus. If it was our money though, we'd look at the mid-spec model, which comes with those twin screens, dual-zone climate control, the fast charging and all the safety kit you need. There are two batteries to choose from, 58 kWh and 73 kWh. The bigger of those two brings a bit more power, whilst four-wheel drive adds an extra motor to the front axle, upping power once again. Range toppers like this boast 301 brake horsepower. And you can tell the moment you pull away from a standstill, that power output is pretty significant and it's available from the off. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 5.2 seconds, which is not only faster than a Volkswagen ID.4 GTX, but most petrol-powered hot hatchbacks. You'd be right to worry that because the Ioniq 5 weighs a thick end of 2 tonnes, that it might feel a little bit uneasy in the corners, but actually, because the battery's mounted so far down on the floor, it actually handles rather nicely. The steering isn't super sharp, but there's very little body roll, it always feels secure, so you've got no problem placing the car exactly where you want with confidence. A Ford Mustang Mach-E is more fun though, if that kind of thing matters to you. One reservation we do have about the Ioniq's driving experience is the ride quality. You see, we're yet to try one on the smaller 19-inch wheels. Top spec models like this come with 20s and they can make the ride feel a little bit fidgety. That said, all of the worst lumps, bumps and imperfections are soaked up by these gorgeous, squishy leather seats. We've not yet had a chance to try one of the cheaper rear-wheel drive models, but we reckon those could be the ones to go for. You see, even the cheapest model does 0 to 62 miles an hour in 8.5 seconds without sacrificing any of this car's fun handling. Try one, that's our top tip. As we mentioned earlier, the amount of range you'll manage depends on the model you go for. The smaller battery rear-wheel drive cars officially return 238 miles, while those with the bigger battery should do 298 miles. The four-wheel drive car that we've got here sits somewhere in between, returning 287 miles in official tests. However, during our time with the car, we managed 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour, translating to a real-world range of 247 miles. Not as good as the longest range Mustangs, but competitive in this class. If you can charge at home using a 7 kilowatt wall box, it will top up overnight in a little under 12 hours. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 is based on a completely bespoke electric car platform, so it doesn't share any of its DNA with a petrol or diesel model like the Hyundai Kona does. Now that works wonders for practicality. Okay, the floor is a bit high, so you do have to hoik things up into the boot like so, but it's no worse than you'll find on one of this car's SUV rivals, and at least it's got a hatchback opening rather than the Tesla Model 3's saloon-style opening. Boot space measures 527 litres, almost a match for the ID.4. While if you fold these seats down, you'll find 1,587 litres. That is way bigger than conventional petrol hatchback rivals, and plenty for what most family buyers will use this car for. Space in the nose is pretty poor, but big enough to stow this 3-pin plug should you need it in an emergency. Oh, and unlike many electric cars, the Ioniq 5 has been officially rated for towing. Depending on which one you go for, it's 750 to 1,600 kilos. It is similarly impressive back here. The wheelbase, that's the distance between the front and the rear wheels, is actually 2 millimeters longer than you'll find in an Audi A8. So there's loads of space to stretch out back here. I'm just over 6 foot tall, acres of knee room and enough headroom. The completely flat floor as well, that means that it's even practical for someone to sit in the middle seat. Now that long wheelbase does mean that the rear doors are pretty long, which can prove challenging in tight car parks, but if you've got the space, those doors do make fitting a child seat nice and easy. Right, time for some deal makers and deal breakers. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 will charge almost as quickly as a Porsche Taycan, despite costing, in some cases, less than £40,000. You can add 210 miles in 18 minutes. The benefits of this car's electric-only platform are clear. There's loads of space inside and a big boot too. No matter which Ioniq you go for, you get twin 12.3-inch displays and loads of standard kit. We'd avoid these 20-inch wheels as they give an unsettled ride. At least the plush seats absorb some of the bumps. We often reference the Kia e-Niro and the Hyundai Kona Electric as the kind of benchmark, affordable, long-range EVs, and this feels like the logical next step. It's infinitely more desirable than those two cars, and it is absolutely brimming with tech. It'll charge so fast as well that before long, range and charge anxiety will be a thing of the past. We've driven a lot of electric cars this year and will continue to do so, but this is one of the best. If you like this video, then why not watch our review of the Mustang Mach-E or our electric cars playlist. Thanks for watching.